A dangerous game. As Noso stepped into the compound of Sunrise Secondary School, a mischievous smile spread across his lips. The school was buzzing with activity, and his eyes caught sight of the senior girls in their crisp white uniforms, giggling and chatting under the large mango trees that dotted the yard. His thoughts wandered. This year might not be so bad after all, he mused. Having just arrived in Enugu, a city known for its vibrant energy and sprawling hills, Noso felt a surge of excitement. He had grown up in luxury, the son of Amoka Nwoke, a wealthy businesswoman who had shielded him from life's harsh realities. Noso had never wanted for anything, and now he found himself at this school, eager to bend life to his will. His home, a grand mansion in the upscale Independence layout, was nothing short of a palace. Every corner was filled with imported furniture and priceless art. Life had always been easy for Noso, and whatever he wanted, he got. But Enugu was a different world. As he stood in the dusty schoolyard, he realized this would be his first time away from the cocoon of his mother's indulgence. He adjusted his sunglasses, watching the students stream into their classrooms, and thought, this could be fun. Noso's upbringing was a tale of indulgence. At the age of 5, he had thrown a tantrum in a toy store in New Haven when he didn't get the latest video game console. His mother, Amoka, had simply smiled and purchased two, one for his room and another for the living room. Anything for you, my prince, she whispered. Noso had grown up believing that the world was his to command. His mother, ever doting, excused every misstep and brushed aside every fault. He was her golden boy, and she indulged in his every whim. If Noso wanted it, he got it, no questions asked. But that kind of love, while comforting, can be dangerous. One humid afternoon, as the sun beat down on the sprawling grounds of Amoka's mansion, her old university friend, Ngozi, came for a visit. They sat in the tastefully decorated living room, sipping cold drinks, and reminiscing about their younger days. Ngozi, now a successful lawyer, had always been the voice of reason in their friendship. Noso stormed into the room, not bothering to greet Ngozi. Mom, I want us to go to Obudu Mountain next week. Book the tickets now, he demanded, his eyes barely acknowledging her friend. Amoka smiled indulgently. Of course, darling. I'll book it right away, she said as Noso strutted out. Ngozi frowned. Amoka, you are spoiling this boy. You can't keep giving him everything he wants. Amoka sighed, her smile fading slightly. Ngozi, it's how I show him I love him. Love. Ngozi said, leaning forward, her voice soft but firm. Amoka, love is about teaching him responsibility, preparing him for the real world. Amoka waved her off, laughing. Noso will never need to face the real world. I've made sure of that. Ngozi's heart sank. She had seen this happen before. Children who grew up with no boundaries often stumbled when life hit them with its harsh realities. I hope you're right, Amoka, she said quietly, but deep down, she knew disaster was brewing. That day, as Ngozi drove home, she couldn't shake the feeling of unease. She had always been a good judge of character, and she knew that Noso's attitude would land him in trouble one day. She had seen too many young men raised without a firm hand lose themselves in the world. Meanwhile, Amoka pushed her friend's concerns to the back of her mind. To her, Noso was perfect, and she was determined to ensure that he never had to struggle, never had to face disappointment. In her mind, he was destined for greatness, and she would do whatever it took to protect him. But she had no idea that Noso's privileged upbringing would soon lead to events that would change both their lives forever. When Noso turned 20, he returned home from university to find the house quieter than usual. One evening, Amoka found their housemaid, Chidinma, sobbing in the kitchen. She had been with them for over 2 years, a quiet and hardworking girl from a humble family in Saka. What's wrong with you? Amoka asked, more annoyed than concerned. Through her tears, Chidinma confessed, Madam, I'm pregnant. It's Noso's child. For a moment, Amoka was stunned, but her shock quickly turned to fury. How dare you lie about my son, she screamed. Chidinma fell to her knees, pleading, but Amoka refused to listen. You're just trying to trap him for money. You ungrateful girl. Ignoring Chidima's cries, Amoka called her private doctor and arranged for the pregnancy to be terminated. As Chidima was taken away, still sobbing, she cursed Noso and Amoka. "You will know no peace," she cried. This was only the beginning. Over the next 2 years, Noso got Chidima pregnant 2 more times. Each time, Amoka stepped in, covering up for her son's recklessness and forcing the girl to undergo the painful procedures. After the 3rd pregnancy, Chidima finally gathered her strength and decided to leave. As she packed her things, Amoka confronted her. "Where do you think you're going?" she demanded. Chidima's voice was steady. "I can't do this anymore, madam. What you and your son have done to me is wrong. If you tell anyone, I'll make sure you never walk in this city again," Amoka threatened. Chidima looked at her, and for the first time, Amoka saw pity in her eyes. "I understand, madam. But remember, every action has its consequences. One day, you and Noso will face yours." With that, Chidima walked out of the mansion, leaving Amoka to wrestle with the doubts she refused to acknowledge. After his graduation, Noso's life took a turn. He was posted to Enugu for his NYSC service year, where he would teach at Sunrise Secondary School. The night before he left, he sat in his room, surrounded by his expensive gadgets, feeling restless. "Do I really have to go, Mom? Can't you pull some strings and keep me in Lagos?" Noso groaned. Amoka shook her head. "I tried, my love. But even I can't change this. It's only for a year." Noso sighed. "It feels like a punishment." Amoka smiled, patting his hand. "Think of it as an adventure." On the first day at Sunrise Secondary, Noso was greeted by the principal, Mr. Chokudi. The school was modest, with fading paint and old classrooms, but the students seemed eager and full of life. As he was introduced to his class, Noso's eyes swept the room, landing on a group of senior girls who seemed to be whispering and giggling amongst themselves. "Welcome, Mr. Noso," Mr. Chokudi said. "I hope your time here will be rewarding for both you and the students." Noso smiled, already plotting how to make his year of service a bit more entertaining. Among the students, Noso quickly noticed 3 girls, Amora, Nkem, and Uju, who were always together. The girls called themselves the PGs, or prettiest girls in school. They had a reputation for being smart, confident, and always at the center of attention. From the very first lesson, Noso realized that the PGs were drawn to him, just as he was to them. He could feel their eyes on him as he spoke, their admiration palpable. As he taught them the basics of physics, he made sure to sprinkle his explanations with jokes and clever anecdotes, earning giggles and smiles from the girls. After class, as the students filed out, Amora lingered behind with her friends. She approached Noso with a bright smile. "Sir, we really enjoyed your lesson today. Physics has never been so interesting." Nkem, the quietest of the group, nodded in agreement. "Yes, Mr. Noso. We were wondering if you could give us some extra tutoring. The final exams are coming up soon, and we want to do well." Noso pretended to consider it for a moment, but inside he was thrilled at the opportunity to get closer to the girls. "I suppose I could make some time for dedicated students. Let's discuss it tomorrow after school." The girls exchanged excited glances, and Noso felt a rush of satisfaction. He knew he had them hooked. Over the next few weeks, Noso became the most popular teacher at Sunrise Secondary School. His good looks and charming personality made him a favorite among the students, and his teaching methods, lively, engaging and full of humor, ensured that the students paid attention. But it was the PGs who occupied most of his thoughts. Amora, Nkem, and Uju were always in his class, sitting in the front row, eager to answer his questions and impress him. Noso made sure to give them extra attention during lessons, often using their names in examples or calling on them to answer questions. The other students noticed this favoritism, but no one dared to say anything. After all, who would question the coolest teacher in school? Noso also began offering private tutoring sessions to the PGs after school. These sessions, held in the quiet library or in one of the empty classrooms, gave him the perfect opportunity to get closer to the girls. He would sit beside them, explaining complex physics problems while subtly flirting with them, testing the boundaries to see how far he could push. Noso had always been good at reading people, and he could tell that each of the PGs was vying for his attention in her own way. Amora, the boldest of the three, often stayed behind after tutoring sessions to ask more questions, her bright eyes fixed on him as if he were the only person in the room. "Sir, I've been thinking about what you said in class today about Newton's laws," Amora said one evening as they sat alone in the classroom. "I think I finally understand how they apply to everyday life." Noso smiled, leaning closer. "That's great, Amora. I knew you'd get it eventually." Amora blushed, looking down at her notebook. "Thank you, sir." The way she said it, her voice soft and shy, sent a thrill through Noso. He could tell that Amora, like the other PGs, was falling under his spell. As the weeks passed, Noso's inappropriate behavior escalated. He began to play the three girls against each other, giving each one just enough attention to keep them hooked but never enough to make them feel secure in his affections. One evening, during a private tutoring session at Nkem's house, Noso sat close to her on the couch, their thighs touching as they went over a textbook. The room was quiet, the only sound the occasional rustling of pages and the soft hum of the ceiling fan above. "So, you see," Noso said, his voice low and intimate, "the force of attraction between two objects is inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. The closer they are, the stronger the attraction." Nkem nodded, but she wasn't really paying attention to the physics lesson. She could feel Noso's presence beside her, his leg brushing against hers, and her heart raced. "The closer they are," Nkem repeated, her voice barely a whisper. Noso turned to her, his face just inches away from hers. "Exactly." For a moment, the air between them was thick with tension, but just as Noso was about to make his next move, Nkem's phone buzzed. She pulled away quickly, checking the message. It was from Amora. "How's the study session going?" The moment was broken. "Maybe we should take a break," Nkem said, her voice shaky. Noso smiled, hiding his frustration. "Of course." As the days went by, Noso continued his game with the PGs, each girl believing she was the one who had captured his heart. They giggled and whispered about him in the hallways, and Noso basked in their attention. He enjoyed the thrill of having them wrapped around his finger. But not everyone at Sunrise Secondary was oblivious to what was going on. The school principal, Mr. Chokudi, had begun to notice the extra attention Noso gave to the PGs, and he wasn't pleased. One afternoon, he called Noso into his office. "Mr. Noso," Principal Chokudi said, his face stern, "I've heard some things from the students. It seems you're getting quite close to some of the girls, particularly Amora, Nkem, and Uju." Noso kept his face neutral, though inside, his heart was racing. "I assure you, sir, I'm just helping them with their studies. They've been struggling with physics, and I'm trying to make sure they succeed." Principal Chokudi studied Noso for a long moment before nodding. "I hope that's all it is. This is a school, not a playground for inappropriate behavior. I expect you to conduct yourself professionally." Noso left the office feeling rattled but determined. He wasn't about to let a few rumors ruin his fun. One fateful day during Miss Uche's biology class, Nkem suddenly felt nauseous. She raised her hand, her face pale. "Miss, I don't feel well. Can I be excused?" Miss Uche gave her a concerned nod, and Nkem hurried out of the classroom. A few minutes later, Amora and Uju followed, both of them looking equally unwell. Miss Uche frowned, but she didn't say anything, allowing the girls to leave. After class, the three friends met in the bathroom, where they huddled together, whispering in low voices. Nkem was the first to speak. "I think I might be pregnant." Amora's eyes widened in shock. "Pregnant? But, how?" Uju's face paled as she looked at her friends. I think I might be pregnant too." The three girls exchanged nervous glances. None of them had spoken about their individual moments with Noso, but now the truth was beginning to surface. The next day, Nkem, Amora, and Uju visited the school clinic, where Nurse Margaret examined them. After running a few tests, Nurse Margaret called the girls into her office. Her face was serious as she delivered the news. "I'm afraid the results are clear," Nurse Margaret said softly. "You're all pregnant." The girls sat in stunned silence, unable to process what they had just heard. Their world, once filled with excitement and youthful dreams, was suddenly crashing down around them.
I hope you enjoyed the tale. If so, please like the video, comment, share it with your family and friends, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell for more enchanting tales like this one. Goodbye.